Hi, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Albert, and this is Vlogs About Nothing. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your very busy afternoon to join me. I really do appreciate it. It happens to be just one of those first days in a very long time where I've been able to post 3 videos, and I'm pretty happy about that. I'm not really happy about the extenuating circumstances of such, but I do want to talk to you guys about impressions, and just how often overlooked they are, and how sometimes, wanting to make a kind of impression, is even just wrong in and of itself. Like, people are going to think a certain type of thing about you, and what's interesting is that impressions are things, are reserved judgments, that we place upon people after very little to go off of initially, right? It's just sort of like you meet somebody, you vibe on them, you decide whether or not you'd like to get to know them more and so forth, and then you're supposed to do that, you're supposed to get to know them more and learn personal things about them and stuff. And recently I feel like such a fool because I spent such a long time telling a girl all of some of my most personal thoughts and stuff, and I just feel like I was trying to make an impression, and that impression was that I wanted her to know more about me, and to reserve any sort of judgment she may have had while getting to know me and stuff. I thought that's kind of how it was. And recently, when we were together, we had a conversation in person about, or it was over text. It was over text, but I felt bad because I deliver DoorDash sometimes, and I didn't want her family to think that I was a loser or something, and I thought that was weird that I would think like that, you know what I mean? That I was sitting there and, there's this girl that I'm in love with, and she's a lot younger than me, and I'm trying to figure out how to express this, I've lived a very interesting life, and I'm just trying to get by like everyone else and stuff, and we all have plans, hopefully you guys have plans. If not, make them and make your dreams come true. I know that's what I've spent the duration of my latter years now trying to really focus on. And so I just thought that impressions are something that oftentimes we really hold a lot of weight on, and oftentimes it's against our own interest. And it opened my eyes, and to the thought that I didn't know anything about her, you feel me, that I was being, again, very, very transparent and an open book, and there was still nothing, and that was disappointing because I just don't know how else you can try and start up conversations with people, and make that impression if you're not ever even given an opportunity because of a tactical sort of thing. When people don't want to tell you things about them, they don't tell you things about them, you know what I mean? And they just sort of make it all about you, and I guess I'm the kind of person, obviously, that receives that well. It shouldn't be like that. I told her, the very first 5 minutes that I had met her that, I wasn't really interested in talking a whole bunch, just because I did that here and stuff. And I just really have had some different emotions about things that I was so certain about in life, and now I'm not so sure of, because there's really no way to think about how those kinds of impressions would even matter if, I've been dating you for 2 weeks, I've known you for 2 months, and I don't know a single individual person's name in your circle, you feel me, at all, and again, there's just something telling about that, because you should be able to leave an impression on somebody and, let them do their thing and stuff. And I just feel like impressions are weird, and I didn't want to leave a bad one with her family. And it was weird because I ended up acting totally counterintuitive to that, obviously. But what a wild ride these last few weeks. I think all of us think about things like this, and I think that's why a lot of us choose not to be a part of, our partners' parents' lives. Or I know that it's different when you're single and you're older and somebody is involved so much with still alleged, parts of their family. Again, what trips me out about not being able to have impressions about somebody is that you just never know. And based on what very little factual information to be true that's been presented to you, like, you're still not really sure to make out what just happened. And I feel like I'm at that point where, like, I'm just a little more confused as to how this all happened, right? And then I think to myself, well, I'm not confused. I was blindly in love, clearly. And I'm not sure how that was made possible, if either one, that other person didn't love me back, or two, it was just on some cap from the beginning, you know what I mean? And like, either way, I'm not hating, right? I'm just saying that it sucks when you begin to question the very things that you are and the very things that you do, and you're left with nothing. Like, you're left with not only not having any validation as to, like, okay, it's okay, right? And she did say that. She said that was funny, but she made it very applicable to her in her circumstance. And again, it was always like that. It was anytime I tried to involve any sort of larger part of her life, it was completely, like, not that way, but more of, like, a thing, and it was really interesting. And I get overthinking about stuff, like anybody, and I'm just like, why did I feel that way? Why wasn't I allowed an opportunity to even make any judgment calls, on like anything at all that she had going on, or may have had going on, or had going on? I just think that impressions are everything, and it's important that I guess regardless of whether or not you're ever going to meet these people, or those people are around even, or they are who they say they are, and again, like, so much confusion. Again, I just really enjoyed that whole experience, but what I'm so mad and frustrated about with myself is the fact that, like, I just let somebody, completely blind me and not even allow me an opportunity, because I was so head over heels, and people do it, right? Like, I've been the guy, where a girl really likes me and stuff, and I've taken advantage of that in a way that, like, was selfish for me, and because I knew that a woman liked me, or a girl liked me a lot, like, I mean, I'm just being truthful, and I'm sure that's just what happened to me, you know what I mean? But it sucks because I really liked her, it's just interesting that I'm having all these different thoughts about what I should have done, what I could have done. And I think at the end of the day, it wasn't what I could have done or what I should have done. It's what she chose not to do, and my reaction to having been so supportive for such a short period of time, but an extended period of time, a very expensive period of time, and still not, like, have any confirmation as to, like, who that person is, you feel me? Like, where they live, who they live with. Like, this woman came to my apartment, she met my roommate, she hung out, like, many times, and she knows where I sleep, like, and I know nothing about her, and I can't help but get an impression that, like, I was straight played, you feel me? That, like, seriously, that, like, the feelings were maybe not a lie, in and of themselves, but, like, there was definitely a whole lot of, things that were omitted from that particular time, and that is unfair, because I thought, we had worked towards being together, and then we got together, and then, like, not only did nothing change, but it got a little more weird, and that's my impression, again, after the fact, right? But it's sort of like, I don't know how else to process that. And so impressions are important, guys. When you're meeting somebody for the first time, or you're trying to have a relationship with them, like be real with them, you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure you'll get whatever you want. You don't have to make somebody think that, like, they're hella important, you know what I mean? And I mean, I guess that's maybe the shtick here, right? Is that, like, you let somebody think that they're important, but then, like, you don't really ask any further questions, you don't probe. Like, there was never any interest from her about anything at all that I had going on in my life, and I just, then what did we spend, 10,000 messages talking about? And it's just sort of like a lot of different stuff, and it was fun, but it was very in the moment, sort of just very much like people that like to hook up and stuff, and again, I get it, but I just thought I was being sold a different product in terms of, like, the label of what a relationship is, and how we can agree upon what it isn't and stuff. And so hey guys, I really appreciate you watching my show. Seriously, it's always a really fun time when I make these videos. Not so much lately, right, just because I really am trying to use this as a crutch to sort of really help get me through this very difficult time in my life as quickly as possible. Impressions are everything, you feel me? And again, just, it sucks when you've been with somebody so intimately and you don't know anything about them, but yet they know everything about you. And like, I just feel like I got played, you know what I mean? And, like, I know I didn't and stuff, and this girl will likely never talk to me again, and that's fine. It's not, it goes against all of the promises that we made each other, and I hate breaking promises, you know what I mean? Especially when, like, I really wanted to keep them and stuff, there's nothing more frustrating, and frustrated with myself, you know what I mean? And not in, like, a crazy way or anything. It's just acknowledging that it's okay to be mad at yourself and hold yourself accountable, and maybe more people should do that, because then, like, they might be a little more grumpy with how things are going, but at least things would get done, and people would be knowingly about what's going on and stuff, at least in their own lives, and what they're responsible for, right, and what they stand for and what they don't, and who they're loyal to and who they're not. And so it's just been a real interesting day. I'm gonna keep doing this. I've been out all day, I'll keep being out. It's really tough being back home right now, just thinking about that a lot, but it's fine, right? Because, like, I'm the dummy, you know what I mean? Like, I'm the one hurting, I'm the one doing this, I don't have any idea of what's going on with her. I really didn't have any idea of what was going on with her to begin with, and that's what I gotta keep telling myself, you know what I mean? It's just because I only saw what I seen, and I only saw what I saw on the phone, you know what I mean? Like, I never saw any pictures, we never took any pictures. Like, it just begins to get more, like, creepy the more that I think about it, and I'm just like, please God, at least, like, let her have liked me, at the very least. Just, like, Jesus, like, what's going on here? And so that's where I'm at, and it's frustrating, but what are you gonna do? I'm gonna try to continue on with my day. I hope that you guys have a really awesome afternoon, and thank you so much again for watching my show. I really appreciate it. I'll see y'all later. Have a really good night, okay? All right, bye.